Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So today I gotta get a lot of pain off my chest because today we have to talk about the recent state of these Namek Saga EZAs. Of course, I didn't break down the EZAs for Captain Ginyu, Rakumen Golo, and Berter and Jace, but if you guys have been following the Dokkan community just in general, you will know that once these EZAs dropped, a lot of people were not in love with these characters in terms of how they were performing. So I gotta go ahead and just vent my pain because for those of you who know me, you will know Namek is one of, if not possibly my favorite arcs in all of Dragon Ball. So for these EZAs, for these popular characters to get their EZAs and be so underwhelming, it is honestly just so upsetting to me. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about that. Hopefully you guys will enjoy my pain and suffering. If you do, show your support, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Also though, comment down below your thoughts. Let us know, what do you personally think about these Namek Saga EZAs, these Ginyu Force EZAs? Do you think they're underwhelming, overwhelming? Do you think they're pretty decent? Let me know in the comments down below. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. And we obviously need to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Captain Ginyu. Now, I think it goes without saying that most people will agree Captain Ginyu is the character who had the most potential of the three, and also is probably the most disappointing of the three given that potential. Because when you look at his EZA, you're gonna say to yourself what I said to myself when I first saw the EZA details, which is it feels like they really had a leash on this character and said we cannot let him go up beyond a certain point in terms of power for the sake of the gameplay. And I don't understand why that is, because Ginyu does not look all that powerful when you look at his EZA. So of course with his EZA, he's stacking defense, raising attack for one term. I need to stop right here and just point out something that we all should be aware of. This defensive stacking is the exact same as when he had it before his EZA. Yes, he does get a boost to his attack stacking, but we need to understand the attack stacking is only for one turn, and beyond that, it's not the most important thing of Ginyu's kit with his super attack effect. The important thing is the defensive stacking. So why are they not focusing on what makes Ginyu good? They're instead giving him this attack stacking, which is nice, but it's only for one turn, so it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things, right? But already off to a rocky start in my opinion. We keep on going. The thing about Ginyu is beforehand he wanted to be ran with Ginyu Force category characters. They really doubled down on that to the point that you cannot run with Ginyu for any other team besides Ginyu Force, otherwise Ginyu is not reaching his full potential in terms of his character design. So first of all, he gives a great amount of support to Ginyu Force allies. We love that. Of course, great support, built-in crit opportunity, so we love that. But also look at this, per Ginyu Force ally on the team, he's boosting his stats. You do need that boost to his stats, of course, to help him with the stacking, to make him a lot better. Of course, when there's another Ginyu Force ally, he'll have attacks effective against all types and a high chance to launch additional super for more stacking, so you do need those things to happen. And also right down here, he does have 20% up to potentially 50% damage reduction in terms of his kit. So the damage reduction is nice, but we need to understand something. Two things really. The first thing is that there are LRs currently in the game who have 50% damage reduction plus guard of some sort of ride and stuff. They can still take damage against the really hard content. So if they can suffer some damage, what is giving us the belief that Ginyu can handle himself pretty well? Now, yes, he can stack defense, so that'll make him better over time, but especially in medium length to short length content, Ginyu is not an option that I would feel comfortable running. And also, again, we were talking about 20% damage reduction in general. 20% is not going to help you really at all, especially with no guard. And also up to 50%. 50% with guard can still help you a lot. Without guard, Ginyu is relying on the defensive stacking. If you can't get it to happen, then Ginyu is not going to be that great in the grand scheme of things. I've even had some friends of mine say that Ginyu has lost value and lost aura in terms of his kit now with the EZA compared to what he was like on release, which is crazy, but I think it is a pretty valid kind of assessment when you think about it. So is pretty tough there. The second thing to talk about is the fact that, again, Ginyu wants to be run with Ginyu Force allies, which is, thematic, it makes sense, right? But if you look at the Ginyu Force category, let's talk about what it is, right? You have the three recent EZAs, right? So Berter and Jace, you got Rakumen, Goldo, and Ginyu. Those are the three good characters, right? Then you got last year's Ginyu Force team, right? So they're probably like the fourth best character. And then after that, you got only free-to-play options, and that's all you have. And when we look at some of these options, right? Like for example, like the Battlefield Ginyu right here, their EZA came out back in 2022. It is actually over 3 years since they got their EZA. So they are not necessarily that great of a unit nowadays, right? You look at all these free-to-play characters, they are not options that you would necessarily be happy to run in the grand scheme of things, right? Look at Jace right here, the free-to-play Jace. His EZA came out in 2021 on the global side of the game. So these characters are pretty old. The Ginyu Force category as an entirety is not a great category. So when you're running a unit who wants to be run on a specific category and more than half of the options for the category are not really desirable, that speaks in of itself as a major problem. We only have 4 decent units. Really not even this Ginyu Force unit is that crazy good. So really only got like 3 good units even in that. And yeah, it's just so frustrating. But it is what it is. Like you can't change these EZAs now, but I need to express how bad I need to express how badly Namek Saga has been done, because this is atrocious. We go look at the Ginyu side of the character, of course. A lot of people, I think I said this myself as well when I first look at the details, a lot of people will say though that the Ginyu side or the Goku side of this character is a lot better than the Ginyu side, and I think that's a pretty valid assessment. I mean, when you look at it, right, you know, the HP recovery is nice, of course, but the stats are really good. 50% flat out damage reduction, which is nice. Built-in attacks effective against all types, so a lot of his kit is really awesome. The good thing about this character is very little of his kit is focused on him running with certain types of allies. So once you get him into Ginyu Goku, there really is very few limitations. The only real limitation is right down here where you want an ally whose name includes Jace, so that you have a scouter for the turn. So having that built-in scouter is nice. Before it was just a chance to get a scouter, now it is a guaranteed scouter. That is really helpful in terms of, you know, team rotations, all that sort of planning. So really good stuff there. But okay, let's continue on. So besides that, he's got 50% dodge, you know, crit chance built in, great stuff. Also, he's stacking attack. Now beforehand he stacked attack, right? But it was only the raising attack 30%, just like his defense is stacking. This time they raise his attack, so they made his stacking better here, but they didn't give him defense for the one turn. So they omitted the important stat to stack off, which is the defense. They omitted that from his kit, but they boosted his attack right here. Why didn't they decide to say, hey, you know what, instead of giving him attack on the, you know, before transform state, give him more defense? I don't understand what is wrong with the development team when it came to this specific kit design. I really feel like they just had like some sort of rule where they could not go so far and make this character so good because for the sake of balance or something. I don't understand why, but it really feels like they put a leash on him. Raccoon and Guldo, similar kind of focus. I feel like similar to like Berter and Jace as well, where Raccoon and Guldo, they feel really good for like short form content like Battle Horn from Noble Foes, or, you know, like the Extreme Super Battle Roads. But beyond that, I don't really feel that great about them. They can debuff, which is nice with the super, 30% damage reduction, up to 60% before attacking if you have a Ginyu ally. You know, they have a great chance to guard in general, seal attack enemy supers and everything, so that's really nice. You know, boosting their attack and defense when they receive attack and stuff. So all this stuff is good right here, boosting their defense when guard is activated. But also right down here, like we said earlier, with the Ginyu like ally in the same turn, they get some more buffs, right? So that 30% damage reduction before attacking, making it 60% before attacking. Also guaranteed guard against all attacks and stunning the attacked enemy. So when you face opponents who can be stunned or sealed, this will be clutch. But otherwise, it's not going to be the best kit to offer overall. But, you know, we have to understand, you know, this character also has some insane defensive stats, right? You know, if you look at the EZA, their EZA is basically like 14,000 to, I believe it's like up to actually 15,000 in terms of defensive stats. So this character can be pretty nasty. So, you know, I think this character is probably you could argue the best of the three in terms of expectation to like the reality. But even then, like I could see a lot of problems with this character in terms of general value, which does suck, but at least I could feel pretty good about them probably in like ESBR and Super Battle Roads, or not Super Battle Roads, but like Battle Horn Formidable Foes and that sort of stuff. So I feel good about it in that sense. But yeah, it's just tough. Berter and Jace, honestly, probably the worst of the three. I think a lot of people will agree with that. I mean, they got great support to offer and everything. You know, they give great support to Space Traveling Warriors or Special Post allies. More support right down here if there's a Ginyu ally in the same turn. But also, they are a de facto dodge or die character where they have 70% damage reduction right here, plus, you know, 10% when they receive a super temporarily, so for the turn. Also 10% right here within the turn before receiving an attack with a Ginyu ally on the same turn. So 70 up to 90% dodge chance. Really, it's 70 to 80% because you don't want to put them against a super. But yeah, again, they're dodge or die, and if you don't dodge, you're screwed. So I just don't like how these EZAs I don't like how they've been done. I actually broke down what I felt about these EZAs. Again, I wanted more from Berter and Jace. I feel like these guys are going to be pretty fun. Raccoon and Golo, and then Ginyu. Look at what I had to say about Ginyu. Even I forgot what I said about him entirely, but I knew what I was going to say. No guard with the damage reduction, the okay buffs to the Goku part of it, nice support, but only for Ginyu Force. Looking back at Ginyu, I actually mentioned right there, he doesn't lead Ginyu Force. He leads Terrifying Conquerors and Plan Namek Saga. He doesn't support either category. So what the heck are we doing? He doesn't, like, even his 30% right here, the extra 200% really, that's for Space Traveling Warriors. So he doesn't even cover any of these categories with his support. It makes no sense to me why we haven't changed it, because having one category is fine. You know, he could have given some cracked support for Ginyu Force, but also some average support for the other categories. He didn't do any of that average kind of support for the other categories, and it really is so annoying. And then also, again, no buff to that defensive stacking. I said that there would be fumbles. If you look at people just in general with Dokkan Twitter, you'll say, you know, people are coping for it. You can shout out to Issa. She was saying how Ginyu EZA is just ass, which is so tough, but I think it is so true. You got people joking how it's a busty EZA, but of course we go to the original post. Annie right here, shout out to Annie. I don't think he's been posting for a while, but they've been saying like how Ginyu is just fumbled, and I think it is a fumble without a doubt. Even if he's like average to decent, he is still a fumble, because we have to understand that on release, this character was an elite character, and now his EZA is just so far down in terms of value from what people expected, from what people hoped. I understand we put our own expectations on this character, but when you think about what this character was like back then, I think there is some validity to the level of expectations that a lot of people had. It wasn't just a few Ginyu fans, it was a lot of people overall. So it is incredibly disappointing. You have people trying to figure out how to help the EZA Ginyu and stuff. Of course, this was kind of talking about like the Prime Battle DN and everything, but yeah, it's just all sorts of like frustrating nonsense in general. It is so annoying. But okay, I mean, we gotta talk about that. Let me go ahead and show you guys this. So I talked about it maybe earlier, I forget now if I mentioned it, but you know, if you look at YouTube specifically for like the Ginyu EZAs and stuff, you will see a lot of dislikes in regards to Ginyu's performance, right? Of course, you got Truth, shout out to Truth, obviously, you know, he's doing his thing with Ginyu, doing like testing and everything, but he said right here, on the day that the Ginyu like EZAs were announced and everything, he said he got a bust EZA. 2 days later, he said it was a potential fumble at a Rainbow Captain Ginyu. Obviously, I think this was on a private server perhaps, but regardless, you know, he's got obviously like the dupes and everything to test him properly, so you know, 2 days later from it being a busted EZA to being a potential fumble, that says a lot. You got Iron Can right there talking about how it was a mistake to run them after the EZA. You got all sorts of nonsense like that. You got, you know, freaking talks about how it's worse for the Ginyu Force team. I don't know how the EZA is going to make it worse, but I can imagine some of the frustrations in general. It is just so bad though. It is so embarrassing. It is, I don't know what they can do to change this, because I didn't see it right here yet, but trust me when I say, people have been making conversations or trying to figure out ways to design EZA concepts for Ginyu after Ginyu's EZA dropped. How is it that we're making concepts for his EZA after he dropped because he's that mediocre? That is really tough. But you know, there's a lot of things behind it. I know some people are hoping for like a part 2 LR Ginyu like Raccoon or something, who knows, but the way it is right now, I think Ginyu is screwed. Namek, I think, is in a lot of trouble. And let me go ahead and kind of pull up the Namek Saga category, because I think it's important we kind of talk about this. But since like the beginning of October, when the Worldwide Celebration campaign ended, of course, you know, JP and Global were synced, we had 1 month of like legitimate Namek Saga buffs, right, with like Dirty Fireworks Vegeta, the new part 2 LR Gohan and Piccolo. We had a good amount of Namek Saga buffs. Then we had the 2 Worldwide Celebration LR EZAs for Frieza right here and Namek Goku during the 10th anniversary, and then right now we have the EZAs for Ginyu, for Raccoon, Guldo, and Berter and Jace, right? So we've had basically 3 separate instances of Namek getting love in some capacity, whether it's a good amount or a small amount. They've received love, right? However, a majority of the category is still not that great, and I made a video a while back talking about the state of Namek being bad, but even now you could argue it is so much worse, because a lot of these older units are not necessarily that good. You know, Kui I wouldn't say is that great for me personally. I don't like him necessarily. Vegeta is probably all right to say the least, but Vegeta and Goku, they weren't that crazy when they first got their EZA last year. You know, of course, we got the EZA for Krillin and Gohan, not that crazy. You got the Ginyu Force right here, they're not that good. Gohan and Piccolo are okay probably, but not that crazy. The only 2 really great characters that stand out, I feel like, are Namek Goku and Full Power Frieza, and that's it. And of course, they should be great because they're probably the 2 highlights of the entire arc entirety, but at the same time, you know, we need more from Namek Saga. I mean, there are too many cool moments for this arc to be the way it is. You look at all the top like kind of moments right here, most of these new characters, most of these EZAs are fumbles, and it is just so disappointing. When we look at the potential EZAs left, there is nothing that can be done when it comes to Namek. I mean, look at this. 2020, not a single Namek character. 2021, nothing from Namek. 2022, not a single thing from Namek. The only things that you can kind of tie into it, I feel like, are these Worldwide Celebration EZAs with the return of Cooler and stuff. But really, there is nothing that can happen. So for me, I would say right this before I kind of wrap up the video here. The problem with Namek, if nothing else, is so many major things have been touched on in the past, like not even a year, in the past year really, right? So many things have been touched on for Namek. You got Dirty Fireworks, you got Gohan coming into Piccolo and everything when he fought second form Frieza, you got Namek Goku, you got Full Power Frieza, you got, you know, all sorts of EZAs for like LRs, like Vegeta who switches into Goku when Vegeta passes on a Saiyan Will, Krillin and Gohan. You got the recent EZAs for the Ginyu Force. What is left for Namek, right? A lot of people, I think, will agree, most of the Namek like badassery, the cool stuff about Namek, happens once Goku touches down on Namek. Once he arrives on Namek, once Goku gets there, then everything kind of kicks off and goes crazy. Before that, there are some cool stuff here and there, but not for the most part. So like, what are we doing? So it is it is like, it's bad. It is really, really bad. Honestly, I don't know what they're going to do for Namek. I have to make a separate video talking about the global Dokkan campaign, because that's going to be happening soon. A lot of people, myself included, are thinking Namek could be an option, as well as Daima. There's like two main kind of ideas. If Namek does happen at this point in time, I don't know what's going to happen, because we don't have any Namek Saga characters to get EZAs, to get upgrades. So in that sort of situation, I don't know what is going to happen to Namek if we just get only new Namek characters. I honestly don't have a lot of faith in this category at this point in time, but we'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed, you know, there can be a lot of hope and stuff. But yeah, Namek needs a crazy glow up, and it needs a glow up that I think starts with Goku and Frieza. I think it has to start from the top, because clearly they cannot start with the bottom and figure it out. They can't make the Ginyu Force good. They didn't make, you know, like Dirty Fireworks Vegeto's okay, but they didn't make a lot of the other characters like that crazy good. So I think they need to figure something out, because it is such a bad situation in the grand scheme of things. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, I'm sorry for venting my frustration. I hope you guys will enjoy my suffering, but you know, I hope you guys didn't take too much from it, because yeah, it is so frustrating. I know a lot of it is because I'm a fan of Namek, but I think in general, any sort of Dragon Ball fan will agree Namek Saga is too popular in the story of Dragon Ball to be hoed the way it has been hoed in the past year. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the EZAs in the comments down below, the state of Namek as a category in the game right now, all that sort of stuff. If you guys enjoyed the video, again, show your support, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1K subs. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, stay blessed, and I will see you all in the next one.